Hello and welcome back to DX Today. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jordan.
You know, Jordan, for the last 20 years, we've been told that technology makes travel easier. But if you actually look at the user experience, it hasn't fundamentally changed since the late 90s. You sit down, you open 20 tabs, you check flights, you cross-reference hotels, you look at maps, you worry about price drops.
It's a part-time job, Alex. It really is. I mean, we've got all these apps, but the burden of assembly, actually piecing the trip together, is still entirely on us.
Exactly. We search, we filter, we decide. But today, we are discussing a massive shift. And the headline here is that the next decade isn't about better search results. It's about results, period. I like that. And we aren't just talking about ChatGPT writing you a poem about Paris, right? Not at all. We are talking about the move from generative AI, which creates content, to agentic AI. This is technology that acts. It reasons, it plans, and crucially, it executes.
So, to put it simply, generative AI is like a travel consultant who gives you a brochure.
Agentic AI is the concierge who actually books the table, hails the car, and fixes your flight when it gets canceled.
That is the perfect analogy, and the stakes are huge. $38 billion by 2030. That's a CAGR of nearly 28%. We are standing on the precipice of the biggest shift since the invention of the global distribution system, the GDS, back in the 60s.
Before we get into the billions of dollars and the shiny new tech, I think it's helpful to look at how we got here. The report breaks this down into 4 eras of travel tech.
Right. So Era 1 was the 1960s to the 90s.
Then comes Era 2, the digitization era. This is the 90s and 2000s.com. They basically took that GDS screen and put it on a website for us. This established the search and filter model we are still stuck in.
Precisely. Then, just recently, Era 3, the information era, 2022 to 2024. This was the ChatGPT boom. Large language models allowed for natural language discovery.
It could describe the trip, but it couldn't buy the tickets.
Which brings us to today. Era 4, agency.
Yes, the era of agentic AI. These systems have right access. They can modify records, process payments, and negotiate with suppliers. The metric changes from time on site, which is about engagement, to tasks completed, which is about utility.
Okay, so how does this actually work? But the report does a deep dive into the engineering here, and it's distinct from what we've seen before. It mentions something called LAMs.
Right, large action models.
So it's trained on user interfaces.
Exactly. It's trained on GUIs and API calls. A LAM understands that to book a flight, it has to click this specific button, enter text in that field, and validate a confirmation. If the LLM is the brain doing the planning, the LAM is the hands doing the work.
But surely one model can't do everything. I mean, booking a flight is different from checking a corporate travel policy.
That's where the architecture gets really interesting. The report details the rise of multi-agent systems, or MAS. Instead of one giant AI trying to do it all, you have a team of specialized agents.
Like a virtual office.
You have an orchestrator. Think of it as the project manager. It breaks that down and assigns tasks to specialist agents. You've got a flight agent talking to Amadeus, a hotel agent scraping inventory, a policy agent checking if you're allowed to fly business class.
And a supervisor agent, right? The report mentions that one specifically.
Crucial component. The supervisor agent audits the output. It checks for errors or hallucinations before anything is presented to the user. It's the quality control layer. And all these agents talk to each other using protocols, like the A2A protocol, to pass data back and forth seamlessly.
And they use RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation?
They have to. You can't rely on training data for travel because travel is real-time. A model trained 3 months ago doesn't know that Lufthansa canceled your flight this morning. RAG fetches that real-time data, so the agent isn't acting on old news.
So we have the tech. But Alex, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the airline in the courtroom. The report highlights a specific legal case that I think terrified every general counsel in the travel industry.
You're talking about Moffat v. Air Canada.
Exactly. For those who missed it, a chatbot on the Air Canada website invented a refund policy for bereavement fares that simply did not exist.
And the Civil Resolution Tribunal absolutely rejected that defense.
That sets a massive precedent. It means the bot did it is not a valid legal defense.
It changes everything. If an agent books the wrong non-refundable flight, the company pays. This is why the shift to agentic AI is high risk, high reward. We aren't just generating creative text anymore. We are executing financial transactions.
It also brings up the privacy issue. If I want an agent to book my trip, I have to give it my passport number, my credit card, access to my calendar. That's a lot of trust.
It's a black box problem. GDPR requires explainability. If an agent chooses a specific flight, the user needs to know why. Was it the cheapest, the fastest, or was the AI hallucinating? The report notes that closing this trust gap is the primary market opportunity. The companies that solve trust will win.
Speaking of companies trying to solve this, the report outlines 3 really distinct case studies. I found these fascinating because they show 3 different ways to use this tech.
Romy is interesting because Expedia identified that travel is social. It's usually a mess of group chats and screenshots. Romy is an agent you can invite into an iMessage or WhatsApp group.
I love this.
Exactly. It sees your friend say, I want to see the ocean, and another say, I'm on a budget, and it builds an itinerary based on that chatter.
This is the corporate world. It's not about vibes. It's about efficiency and policy.
Navan is using a zero-hallucination architecture. Ava is designed to replace Tier 1 human support. We're talking about complex voids, refunds, seat changes, interacting directly with GDS backends.
And the report says Ava handles the workload of hundreds of human agents?
With higher accuracy.
Because unlike a human, the agent doesn't get tired and doesn't forget the obscure clause on page 40 of the company travel policy. This fundamentally alters the unit economics for travel management companies.
This one seemed focused purely on conversion.
Yes, they're using a language user interface, or LUI. If you ask Trip Genie for cheap flights to Bangkok, it doesn't just give you a text list. It deep links you directly to a pre-filled checkout page. It creates a closed-loop planning experience.
And the numbers back it up.
So, looking forward, the report paints a picture of the connected trip in 2030. Jordan, what does that look like to you based on this data?
It looks like the death of the search bar. We'll see context-aware prompts or proactive disruption management. The example they gave, the agent rebooks your missed connection before your first plane even lands, and the new boarding pass is already in your digital wallet.
No standing in line at the service desk.
That is the holy grail. Your personal agent negotiating directly with the airline's agent for a seat upgrade. No human UI involved at all.
So, Alex, if you're a CEO of an airline or an OTA listening to this, what do? The report has some strategic recommendations. Don't try to build a godbot that does everything on day one. Second,
architect for liability. You need human in the loop for high-value transactions.
And technically,
your API is your UI. You need infrastructure that can handle high-frequency requests from bots, not just humans clicking mice. And finally, trust is the new loyalty. Transparency is key. You have to show the agent's thought process so the user feels safe hitting that book button.
It really feels like we are graduating from the wow phase of AI, where we were impressed it could write a sonnet, to the work phase, where it actually does the job.
That's the bottom line. Technology that handles the logistics so you can focus on the journey. And for the industry, well, it's a call to arms. Re-architect for autonomy or risk just becoming the plumbing for someone else's agent.
From search to solve. It's going to be a wild decade for travel.
Indeed it is. That's all for this special report on DX Today. Thanks for listening.
Safe travels, everyone.